Welcome to SuperSport Psychologist. My name is Peter Mazibugo. With me in the studio, I've got Tim Hockness, a sports psychologist. How's it, Tim?
Yeah, good, thanks, Peter. Nice to be here.
You just brought this element of focus. I just think that maybe not enough people are actually aware of this focus concept. It's not just a case of being successful, but you've got to go through certain steps.
Absolutely.
Which I find very, very interesting.
Yeah, that it's a skill and you can learn how to do that skill better.
Okay, and Tim, Dale Bacon's down. What motivates him?
There are a few things that motivate Dale.
Playing for South Africa is obviously the aim of should be the aim of every provincial cricketer.
He knows that he has a talent and he wants to fulfill that talent. But in addition to that, it's a career for him. He wants to earn money and he makes a living from the sport.
But I think if I have to look at what motivated me to play and to put in the long hours as a youngster, wanting to break in, wanting to play for South Africa, it had nothing really to do with money.
Dale's obviously been recognised for his mental strength. Dale, you teeing up in the first tee. What are you thinking about?
The first thing I look for is the ladies' tee. Just make sure that I can get past the ladies' tee. That's my first aim. And then if anything else, then it's a bonus.
Pure bonus.
Yeah, it's a bonus.
Brilliant mental approach.
Exactly, what do you mean pain?
Well, you wouldn't really think of golf being associated with pain, and there's not a lot of physical pain that's ever going to happen to a golfer, you would hope. But the pressure can become excruciating. And then obviously in cricket you have exactly the same psychological pressures, but in addition to that you've got the very real threat of physical pain as well.
It kind of comes in where sledging's starting to happen, because sledging is designed to do two things. It's designed to intimidate or to distract. If you look at interpersonal intimidation, say Dale's intimidating me, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to break eye contact with him. If I'm being intimidated by this guy, I'm going to break eye contact. The second thing that's going to happen as I'm being intimidated is that my body's actually going to hunch slightly. And that's why intimidating sledging can be effective, because you've got a batsman at the crease who's got variable eye contact. He's not concentrating on watching the ball quite as carefully as what he was. And secondly, his body's not operating as well, and he's going to tend to play away a little bit. Yeah. And that's why that intimidation is such a critical role in cricket.
Focus in golf. What really does that entail?
Focus in golf is an extremely interesting concept, because the majority of people, in fact probably about 90% of people, if you ask them what a golfer should focus on, they'll tell you the hole, he must focus on the hole. But that's actually incorrect. Another maybe 7% of people are going to tell you he must focus on the ball, which is also incorrect. What a golfer really needs to focus on is the process of the swing. He needs to focus on making his own body work as it swings, as it drives that club into the ball. He needs to focus on the energy flowing through his own body into the golf ball. And that is going to be a correct focus, that is going to give him a correct swing and a correct strike.
And it's really important that an athlete is looking to win, is looking for that victory, because that little bit of extra determination can actually strengthen the body, which means that they can execute the task properly. What's important after they have set that resolve in their mind, though, is that they focus properly on the act of what they're going to be doing rather than the outcome. You want to hold the putt.
Yeah.
All right. Now, that desire of holding the putt is actually going to strengthen your body, and it'll activate your core a little bit. So that's the first thing that has to happen, because it's critical when you're putting that you're putting off a stable base.
Yeah.
Okay. There can be absolutely no movement over there, otherwise you're in trouble. So that's the first thing, stable body. But after that, you have to become crucially aware of the momentum in your club head.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you hold that with both hands, can you feel the momentum here? Can you feel the weight?
Yeah.
You can feel the energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you know what line you want to putt along, and that momentum has to travel along that line, and then you need to be conscious of the energy from the club head actually passing into the ball.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to give you that good connection and that proper roll.
Yeah.
So just try that. Just waggle the club head a little bit, and you'll always see the pros do this. They always give it a little bit of a waggle, because they want to become very conscious of the energy in the club head. And then you're actually not concentrating on the club head, you're concentrating on the energy in the club head.
Yeah.
And that energy moves from here into here. When you're concentrating on that properly, it's going to give you the proper strike. Look at that roll. See?
I'll get it.
Oh! So Philip, you just hit an 8-footer for par. And
yeah.
Dale's hit this absolutely fantastic tee shot. He's got a, what's that? Is that 18 inches, Dale? So just done 3 foot, eh? But you're saying there's a bit of fear, hey? I mean, what's going on with it?
Yeah, it's terrible for the social golfer that I am, because I'm never going to have many opportunities like this to birdie. So I was just saying, for me it actually becomes a problem, because I don't want to miss it. I really don't want to miss that so badly, and I don't practice enough to have full confidence that I'm going to get that sort of putt in. That I would say straight away I'm getting nervous, instead of actually walking to the marker knowing that, well, it's just going to go in.
I like to use fear, and I like to use fear to heighten your focus and to enhance your focus on the process. So I want you to use that fear. I want you to be terrified of not feeling the momentum in that club head, and I want you to be terrified of not feeling that energy actually transferring smoothly into the ball.
So focusing more on the process.
Focus on the process, use your fear.
Okay. So here we go.
Did it work?
It's fairly easy, yeah? I think that's maybe where it helps, where you've got a good caddy as well.
So speaking of a cricketer, I mean, what sort of focus will that entail as opposed to a golfer?
Well, in some ways, a golfer has to swing a golf club, a cricketer has to swing a bat. So there are those similarities. The batsman also needs to focus very hard on his own body, but in addition to that, he's got to watch the ball very hard. And you will actually find that he doesn't need to premeditate the shot. If he's watching the ball and he's focused on the way that his own body is working, technically correct shots will happen as a reflex. If you look at Dale as he's playing this shot, there are two things that are going on that's important. The one thing that's happening, look at his hips. His hips are so stable, and he's achieving that stability and that balance because he's concentrating on his core. He's concentrating on the build-up of power that he's got in his core through his stable stance. The other thing that's happening, he's watching the ball very, very carefully. Look at his eyes, you'll see how carefully he's watching the ball. Now, as he starts to go into the stroke, he's going to keep watching the ball, and he's going to focus on the generation of power from his right hip bone. It's quite important, you've heard us talking about that before. He's generating power in his right hip bone, and that power is going to start to flow through his body. Dale's body works as a system of levers: hips, spine, shoulders, elbows and wrists into his bat. And he will be conscious right now of that power flowing through his body in a surge, in a wave. And eventually that energy has to flow from his bat into the ball. If he concentrates on that properly, that's what's going to give him the stroke. And that's the state that a sports psychologist wants to be able to create for a professional athlete.
Gee, that's very interesting, eh? But unfortunately, folks, that's all the time that we have for now. From me, Peter Mazibuga, it's goodbye from SuperSport Psychologist.